Page 48, Daf Chav Daled Amud Beis. V'zehu klal b'chol sita de kedusha. It's a little point past the middle point on the page. Now, we're learning about Avos Mesuteres, about the Pintel Yid. What are we learning about Avos Mesuteres, the Pintel Yid? First of all, every Jew has it. Yushalom Mavisim. Second of all, what is it? It's a point of Ein Sof, of infinity, of Getlichkeit, which exists at the core, at the essence of a Yiddish neshama, because of the quality called Chochmah. Mitzad the inyan of Chochmah Shabenefesh, every Jew has Ein Sof in his Chochmah. And from the Ein Sof, which exists in the Chochmah, every Jew, a Jew has a capacity for a Munah, which is completely unreasonable, page 48, and a capacity for a Mesiras Nefesh, which is completely unreasonable. Perikita starts by saying that the mashal for this is fire. It wants to go back to its source. It loses its self-identity completely. It's not reasonable at all that a neshama, that a person's identity should want to forfeit itself to the Eibishter. Continues the Alter Rebbe and he says, V'zehu, this that we just described about a neshama, and particularly the Bechinas Chochmah Shabbat, the point of Ein Sof, which is in the Yiddish neshama, that it wants to go back to the Eibishter and lose its mitzvahs completely. Says the Alter Rebbe, it's a klal, it's a rule, b'chol sita de kedusha, and anything which is in the side of holiness. That the side of only is not only. Anything which is kedusha has to have chokhmah in it. What is chokhmah? Chokhmah is bittul. Which is called the holiness, which is on high, the holiness of Atzilus. As you may or may not know, there's Kodesh and Kodesh, where the Vav is after the Dalet. Kodesh, where the Vav is after the Dalet, goes on the Midas of Atzilus. Kodesh, which really should be spelled without a Vav. The Alter Rebbe spells it with a Vav, so you shouldn't misread it. The Zayar calls it Kodesh Mili Begamei. Kodesh is a word by itself. It's not something is holy. Not Kodesh Havayit's voice. But Kodesh is an inyan unto itself. Kedusha is an essence by itself, which is the Madrega of Chochmah. And what is it? Habatel b'metzias. It's a keli of bittul. And because a batel b'metzias, therefore there's be'ed Ein Sof and malubash bei. Why does Ein Sof rest in Chochmah? Because of the bittul. So this is the same idea we had in Tanya Perek Vav. There's two components to a kedusha idea. A bittul based the gili of Ein Sof, which manifests on that keli of bittul. So the Alter Rebbe said yesterday that this is a neshama. A neshama wants to forfeit itself to the Eibishter. Why? It's batel and the Ein Sof rests. And because the Ein Sof rests, it wants even more batel. Says the Rebbe, it's not unique to a neshama. If it's kedusha, this is a rule in everything which is kedusha. That it's batel to the Eibishter and the Ein Sof rests. Nothing unto itself. Which is why kedusha is called keach chochma, keach ma bittel, and because of the bittel, the Ein Sof rests. So what does the Rebbe say? Let me go straight to the point, okay? Tanya chapter 6 comes back again, and it's going to come back again and again and again. What is one of the gewaldige chedushim of Tanya Perek Vav? That in Pnimiyas HaTorah there's no neutral. In Nigla, there is chiyuv, there's isser, and there's reshus. There's compulsory, there's prohibited, and there's voluntary. Reshus, do whatever you want. In Torah, as it is in Gan Eden, which is what Pnimiyas HaTorah is, which of course finds its way into the Tanya, there is no such thing as neutral. If you're not Kedusha, you're Sitra Achra, that's it. If you're not Sitra the Kedusha, there's no in between Sitra Achra and Sitra the Kedusha. Sitra the Kedusha has two criteria. Criteria number one, bittul. And criteria number two, that as a result of the bittul, Shabash, Baruch Sheda, or as he said in Tanya Perek Vav, that the Shechina is Sheda. If you're not bottle, the Shechina doesn't rest, that makes you Sitra Achra. Now, that doesn't mean you're evil. It doesn't make you a murderer, it doesn't make you a ganav, it doesn't make you an evil person. It makes you a self-centered person. The opposite of self-centered is God-centered, and there's nothing in between. Says the Alter Rebbe, Hepech, Mamish is the diametrical opposite. Remember, Sitra Achra doesn't have to be Shalosh Gebusat Meis Lagamri, which is evil. Sitra Achra could mean even Tzad Achra, She'ein Tzad Kedusha, because it's not bottled to the Eibishter. Klippa means that the truth of its identity is the Eibishter, and it's in denial of its own truth. Sitra Achra means it's not bottled to the Eibishter. That's all it means. Shamimana Nefashes Umeis Ha'elam, from which come the souls of Goyim. The Ad and the Gamai, they do things for themselves. Now, how terrible is it to be selfish? I guess it's not terrible, right? In America, the whole culture, the whole civilization is based on people being selfish. And people are going to be so selfish that they're going to make it worthwhile to give charity also as part of their selfishness. It's not so bad. Communism was based on idealism, and communism became cruel. America is based on everybody being selfish, capitalism, and from the selfish system you have more kindness than from the selfless system of communism, because it acknowledges the Yetzer Hara. A person is selfish. Stop trying to make people not selfish. Incorporate into selfishness charity, and that's what our civilization has done. But it's klipa. It's called chesed liyobim chatas. The kindness of the nations is a sin. There's a self-interest. If you've ever studied the history of this century and the history of America's success, in rebuilding Japan and rebuilding Germany after the war, America was such a kind nation. But you know what America got for all its kindness? That it's the richest country in the world. And if you don't think that when America was being this kind, America was planning to make so much money in all their industries from the rebuilding of these countries, you're living in dreamland. So that makes America bad? And this is going on in Iraq. This whole business of being the world's policeman, there's always a lagamayu avdin. There's a return. It doesn't make it evil, but it's klipa. Because klipa means not bittul. You're not doing it l'shem shemaim. There's a self-interest. Fakat, America is the greatest country ever created since Eibush created the world, in my humble opinion. But it's still chesed l'mam chatos. They've made charity lucrative. They've made charity profitable. And the fact of the matter is that in order for you to be rich, someone else has to be poor. It can't be any other way. And you'll take care of them, but they have to be poor and dependent. When they say hav, gimme, I'll take the import down my throat. Because their identity is that they're a yesh. Yesh means separate. They don't want to acknowledge bittul reibish. If a dalba from the atzma thing onto themselves, kanas we discussed above, and I suppose above means pedig vav, heipech bechinas hachach, which is the exact opposite of chach. Therefore, the rule by klipa is that nekrayim mesim is called death and dead. When one has chachma, in other words kedusha, which is two criteria: a bittul, based ashra vein, which happens as a result, that's called life. And as it's explained in Hasidus in 1,000 places, what is the meaning of the word life? Living forever. Uksiv the pasuk says Yamusu, there may be death, but v'lei b'chachma, when one has bittul to the Eibush and the Ein Sof rest, it's going to live forever. It's never going to die. Klipa is death. Now you could look at a klipa and say, look, what a powerful, successful civilization. It could look like it could last forever. But because the center of that civilization is itself, and now the Eibush that it will eventually self-destruct. Like ancient Egypt, like ancient Rome, like ancient Phoenicia, like ancient, you name the civilization. Ancient Greece, they self-died. Taita says when they were in their heyday, in their moment of greater success, they were already dead because they were not destined to live forever. And they were not destined to live forever because they don't have this bit. So the Rebbe gives us a very broad criteria now. We started off talking about neshamis, and now we just broadened it. There's two things: kedusha and klipa. There's nothing in the middle. Kedusha is batal, and it affects hashras, hashchina. Klipa is a yesh v'dav v'fnei atzmei. It doesn't have to mean killing and evil. It has to simply be self-centered. It's the opposite of elikus. What about a Jew? So before we said a Yiddish neshama is kedusha and batal reibishter, but a Yid could also be a rasha. The Alter Rebbe v'chein harishon. Yid is a rasha. Upeish Yisrael and sinning Jews. That Kedim Shabol they nisayim before they have a test. The Kaddish Hashem, which is supposed to affect even from Kiddush Hashem. They're not batal. And at that point, the Yid is like a klipa. In other words, let me put it to you in my way I say it. There's three types of creations: kedusha, klipa, and a Yid. Kedusha is batal that Eibush, the Shechina rests. Klipa is self-centered, even if it's not so evil, and it's sitracha. A Yid could be klipa on the outside and a kedusha on the inside. A Yid who's a rasha on the outside is klipa. Klipa means to say it's not batal to Hashem. Says the Alter Rebbe, v'chein rashayim b'eish Yisrael, evil Jews and sinning Jews. Kedim shbal daini sayim, until they come to a test. Lekadesh Hashem, which is going to affect Kiddush Hashem, which we're going to see in Mitzvah Hashem in tomorrow's shir. That until that point, they're not batal to Hashem, and it's inyan from klipa. Why? It's the level of chachma, which exists in the neshama of a Yid, which is the bittul aspect. Which affects, of course, that getlichkeit should manifest on top of that bittul, on top of that chachma. So when a Yid who's a rasha b'bechinas golus begufa is exiled in their body, b'nefesh habamis in the animal soul, which is mitzad that klipa, which comes from klipa, shabachol lasmol shabalev, which is in the left ventricle in their heart, hameleches, which kings. U'meishalas and rules, baguf over their body, beside in the mystical secret of golus hashchina, shchina being exiled. Can I ask you, as we discussed earlier, what is the taich golus? So golus has appeared in Tanya in a number of places, Sof Pedig Zayin, but here is a place to talk about golus. What's taich golus? Golus means you're perfectly healthy, you're perfectly safe, you're well nourished, you're warm, you have cable television, but you can't do what you want. You're not free, right? Golus is not yisurim. Golus doesn't have to hurt.
It's like prison.
It's exactly what it is. It's prison. What's the concept of golus? You cannot do what you want. It says in Hasidus, one of the greatest tzar for the neshama, for lakus, is its inability to express itself. Golus means I'm sitting inside the body of an animal, gilgulim, and the animal needs to be shechted so I can have an aliyah, and the stupid behemoth doesn't hear me. That's golus. Golus is a person who's had a stroke, chas v'shalom, or paralysis, and they tell their body move and it doesn't listen. That's golus. You're trapped inside your body, and it doesn't hurt at all. It's the worst kind of tzar. Because every human being, every neshama needs to express itself. If it cannot express itself, it's trapped and it's tortured and it's incarcerated in the das, in the Inyan. The Gemara says, but two stories in the Gemara, one after the other. One of them, I forgot which, was not well. So his friend visited him. His friend says to him, you like Yisurim? In other words, Yisurim, funny from Yisurim shal Ahava. The Gemara about Reb Shimon and Rabbeinu HaKadosh. You like Yisurim? So he says, I don't want the Yisurim, I don't want the Schar Yisurim. He says, you don't want the Yisurim? No problem, give me your hand. So he gives him his hand and he pulls him up and he has a refuah shleima. Later on, this same person became himself ill. And his friend comes to visit him. I think it's Rabbi Yehuda mit Rabbi Yechanan, but I could be wrong. And he says to him, you're enjoying the Yisurim. I don't need them, I don't need their rewards. Give me your hand, and he pulls him up. If he was able to give him a refuah shleima by pulling him up, why couldn't he give himself a refuah shleima? And for the Gemara, when you are a prisoner, you can't go out of the prison yourself. Someone else has to take you out. The Nekud of Golus says you're stuck there, you cannot redeem yourself. A Yid could be in Golus. Golus means you forfeit your free will, and you can't get it back. Galus means that the Yetzer Hara controls the Rasha. If Rasha wakes up one morning and says, today I'm going to be a Chassidish Shabbat, he cannot succeed. You're a prisoner to weakness and lethargy and giving in and so forth. And this is Galus. And this is Klipa. Klipa has a godly spark, but the godly spark is incarcerated, it's trapped in the Galus. The godliness in Klipa cannot be taken out unless a Yid gets involved. A Yid could redeem it because the Yid himself is not in Golus. Says the Rabbi, Yid HaRasha is also in Golus. Right? And as a result, Nikras, Av, Zuba, Nefesh Alakis, this love, which a Yid has, which is in his godly soul, that it's wanted, it's desire, is the Davik by the Shem Chayachayim Baruch to attach itself to the Eibishter, who's the living God, the source of all living things, blessed be He. Which we discussed before as the Chochmah Shebenefesh, and the Ein Sof, which rests in Chochmah Shebenefesh, which is the Pintel Yid, which is a Yid, a powerful Mesedas Nefesh, in a Yid that's called hidden. I don't understand. A Yid is one with the Eivish that's called hidden. The Teretz is two reasons. Reason number one, because a Yid can cover the Avim Mesedas with Golus. When we give into our Yetzer Hara, even in Taivas Het B'chlal, when we give into ourselves, we weaken ourselves. And when we weaken ourselves, we take away our own power of self-control and self-discipline, that tomorrow I should do what I want. I have to redeem myself from the heaviness of Klipa right now. And if I don't, I'm trapped. It's like Klipa. It's called hidden. Kimis uteres, because it's concealed, and covered b'vush sak the Klipa, in the thick sack of Klipa, the Peishi Yisrael and the Jewish people who are the Shoim. Now, what's like b'vush sak? Push it. You take, what is sack made out of? Take the material burlap and make a shirt out of it. You can wear it. Doesn't look exactly nice. Can't go to a chveis and to meet President Clinton with it, or Bush, but you can wear it. Made a shirt. Take burlap, a sack of burlap, put a person in and close it up. He has the same material, but it's a prison. The person has no mobility. He can't move. A Yid becomes a prisoner in the levush sack of Klipa. And as a result, he's not free to do what he wants. And from it, that's how a person has a temporary insanity. You've forfeited self-control, and therefore stupidity comes over you, lachte to sin. What does the stupidity say? I'm still a good Jew, I'm not cut off from the Eibishter, it's not so terrible. The Gemara says, a person not doing Aveda, unless he's entered by a Ruach Shtus, which is the end of today's Shir. Now what's the point? Until this point, it seems that he doesn't Aveda Rosh, since he has a Goy. It's Klipa. Tomorrow the Rebbe is going to say, but there is a point in a Yiddish Neshama which could never be exiled. There's a point, there's a pintele in our identity, which is ultimately conscious also, not just subconscious, which cannot be Golust. And that's the difference in a Yid and regular Klippas. A Yid is a Rosh Gomer, is also Klippa. He's forfeit, he has no will. He's a prisoner. But there's a pintel in a Yid which cannot be in Golus. And it's always free to redeem itself or to express itself and come out. That pintel is called Shina, sleep. And because of that pintel, a Yid, even the biggest Rasha, is different than a typical Klip. And we'll see tomorrow, Mitzvah.